All right, as the title in the intro tells you, we'll be short and sweet out the top because either this is the first pod on the Tuesday or this is the second pod on the Thursday. We just got finished recording the NBA Eastern Conference preview and win totals pod, just kind of talking about the East 1 through 15, where we have certain teams, where we feel about maybe some jumps here or there or some falls. The bottom of the East is really bad. No spoiler there. I think you kind of figure that out as you go. But the West is what we're here to talk about, and it's going to look a lot different. And so we're going to have a really great time getting through that. I'll be really short and sweet out on the top here. I'm joined again once by Grayson Hill. Reintroduce yourself for maybe somebody that only cares about the West for some reason. Maybe they're tuning in because they're a Suns fan or something, and they're just like, whatever. Really quick intro at the top here, and then we'll jump straight into it because the West is going to be really fun.
Yeah, my voice and name sound familiar. I've been here for preseason, postseason, deadline, everything in between, finals recaps. I was excited to jump on here with somebody, one of the few friends I have that's as in tune to the NBA as I am, down here in South Carolina. Not a big market for the NBA, so I got to take my chances when I can to get on the air and put some takes down into stone here, especially on the West. As a diehard Thunder fan, I mentioned at the top of the East preview, I will try and keep my bias in check. I can't guarantee that for the West because it is just everything coming up Oklahoma City right now. So I'll do my best, but no promises. And I am grateful again for Trevor letting me spread the propaganda on here.
All right. You have them one, obviously. So,
I had them 0. They're so much number 1. I mean, they are. Are you kidding me?
Oh,
yes, I have the Thunder number 1. It's funny because remember we did like a stretch run check in, and I was so not confident that they would hold on to the 1 seed, and power of positivity, they did it. Thanks to Wemby and the Spurs and game 82 with Denver, that was a big boost. But yeah, I have them as the 1 seed in the West. Games 1 through 82, and projecting past game 82 is even more of a mess. But for the intents and purposes of the regular season, I think my Thunder will come out as the top seed.
That was the shortest opening 1 seed we've ever done. Like just something that quick out the gate. You have understandable optimism,
and some not understandable. But most of it is understandable for once, which is nice.
There's really without even diving into the off season where I'm trying to figure out how to land the plane on this. I have Denver at 1. I was like, I don't know how to not again. I don't know how to not tell you for 4 months. Beginning prep. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write the Thunder in. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that.
No offense.
I'm talking by a game. It's that we're marginally splitting.
I think it'll come down to the last evening of the regular season again. I really do.
Which is incredible for the league. I think it's awesome that that's continued to matter. All the tanking stuff aside, they've figured out this weird balance with, okay, the play-in obviously is a thing that's been established now and probably isn't going anywhere, where people were like, okay, maybe the end of the season will matter. And at first it really didn't. And then you have the in-season tournament where teams are taking stuff more seriously at the beginning. And there's kind of this weird, that weird middle ground where I used to love in the NBA before play-in and in-season tournament, January and then March. Those were the 2 months where I would really start to pay attention to a Dallas last year, or here's a great example, a Boston 2 years ago. Boston was abysmal in the first half of the year, and they were one of the best teams in NBA history in January. It made that specific month, and then March, and then April, and then they made the finals, for crying out loud, right? And so there's that weird influx and imbalance where those final seeds really matter. Game 81, game 82, and so I believe in the pedigree of a freshly extended Jamal Murray that just happened in the last month. I have question marks. I do. I have question marks about every team, even the Thunder, even the Mavs, even the so on and so forth. KCP's a huge loss. He just really is.
Sure.
but I'm not going to believe in the best player in the NBA and a 3 out of 4 time MVP and should probably, I'm just going to keep saying it until I'm dead. Like should be the 4-time MVP. Like it's stupid to think that this guy's this good. And even if the team's a little bit worse, I know that this whole argument all offseason for them is going to be they're banking on young guys to get better, and they aren't marginally more talented in some of those spots. Like statistically, a lot of those guys are worse than in years past of those spots that won them a championship. But they've been relatively healthy, and when they haven't, they've still righted the ship. I have no reason not to in a fully healthy going into a year season with a guy like Gordon. I know all the Olympic stuff was kind of like he felt snubbed. I think it was stupid, whatever. But
Yeah,
they seem there's a confidence about them that I just think is really, really telling of something. And at that point, if all bets are off, and I'm taking the team that just made it to the in their infancy, right? Talking about teams like getting to another place with Indiana when we talked about the East. And I'm going to try my best not to allude to the East too much because, again, I don't know when these are going to go out. I'll probably just make sure the West goes out second, whatever. But my point is like they reached a height that they hadn't reached as a group ever. And Denver's done it. Denver's done it many times. And now that has to eventually matter. Even though I would say improvement-wise, what Oklahoma City did was definitely one of the best in the NBA in the offseason. Denver's definitely wasn't. So there's so many arguments in either direction. So I'll really quick ask you about Denver, and then I'd like to spend a few minutes on Oklahoma City, and then after that we'll have to keep going with the West, obviously, because these teams are just there's so much to talk about in an hour and hopefully 15. What is your expectation for Westbrook on the Nuggets? Because I really do think he's super important for them. I know, crazy question.
I think he's going to be the best version of what he's become in this phase of his career, which is a guy off the bench who's going to just ratchet up the intensity. He's going to increase the buy-in. And it's not that these are all professional athletes. They're not going to go from not caring to caring because Russ is on the court. But we've seen when he's out there and he's giving 150% effort, everybody else is like, well, who am I to not give 100% if he's flying around the ball like this, doing this? The Clippers were missing a lot more things than what he had to offer and what he was able to help them with. So I think a team like Denver that doesn't need him to propel them to a championship, to a title window, I think is perfect for him. I cannot wait to see how he fits in with this team in need of a little bit of depth. They've losing some guys slowly but surely. Bruce Brown gone, KCP gone, and that's stretching over multiple off seasons. But, the hardest part about repeating as champion and kind of staying in that upper echelon is you start to lose guys. They play their way into bigger contracts on other teams, and you cannot afford to pay them what they bring to you, which is, on one hand, a compliment to what you're able to do with their development, how you're able to slot them into your rotation, things like that. But also, you're losing guys that helped you win a title. You can argue, is that the Jokic effect? Because obviously I mentioned Bruce Brown. He has not been his Nuggets itself since he left town. But I cannot wait to see Jokic and Westbrook on the court at the same time. It may be wonderful. It may be terrible. It may oscillate between those two. But I think end product, end of the day, he's going to add something to this team that's going to rejuvenate them a bit. After the down year is so dumb to put in that term, but they did not make the Western Conference Finals last year with the best player in the world. So with expectations around the best player in the world and what LeBron set the bar at for the rest of the history of the league, you would think that Denver is certainly interested in at least advancing to the Western Conference Finals this year. And I think a guy like Westbrook, who, the Lakers' tenure was the Lakers' tenure. When he's on the court and you have to go through him to win, doesn't always work out. But he won't have to be that anymore because of guys like Jokic and Murray and Gordon, DeAndre. Jordan is back. Just pieces they know and trust. And I think that Russ can elevate those guys through his play. Won't have the ball as much, so less turnovers just based on volume, hopefully. And I'm just hoping he gels with this group and he can be at least a net positive towards what they achieve throughout the season.
The spacing is a huge concern. It just is. Westbrook or not, like the entire team. It might be an insane statement out loud, but to absorb it and to really think about it for a few minutes in this case. But their success in settings where their shooting volume is going to be really important this season, it hinges on Michael Porter Jr., which I know sounds like an asinine statement, but he's their most reliable three-point threat. And he's not exactly the most consistent guy in the world. He's just not.
No.
It's just the truth. I really like Sarge. I think that he's going to be huge as well. I know he, has had some up and down years last couple of years. I really like Deron Holmes. This is a guy that I've seen live many times. I've gone to bat for him coming out of Dayton. Problem is, I love every rookie they got, and yet, am I really going to say like number one seed, win the West, all that stuff for a team with? I would love for these guys to play and be that important, but like we're asking a lot here now. 2 and 3 and however many years moving forward, I don't know. I think we're kind of running into a point where like the Bucks and the Nuggets are kind of in similar spots where they're big, they have to, everything hinges on having a generational player as their best player and wanting to win a championship while they care. In Jokic's case, I'm not sure when that he may wake up, June 15th and be like, I'm just done. He seemed like he was having a great time in the Olympics. That obviously has a lot to do with country, all that. Like, I get it, but there's just a lot of question marks. But again, the pedigree of the top guys that are still there, Gordon, Porter, Murray, Jokic, they've all done it. They all know what they're doing. And I don't hate some of the additions. And so I bet on pedigree, and I don't feel good about it. One game, I'm telling you, I think this is a marginal difference between 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I have Oklahoma City at number 2. Just a grand reveal there. Arguably the best offseason, but I want to pause on that statement. I'm going to read you the NBA GM survey. Okay. I'm just going to read you a couple of things that I thought were interesting. So if I told you, and obviously I want to leave time for all this other stuff, but if I told you which team will win the 2025 NBA Finals according to the GMs, what team would it be and what percentage do you think it would be?
I feel like gotta be Boston, then probably Oklahoma City.
And what would Boston's percentage be?
It's got to be upper 20s, low 30s. I'll just 30%.
83% Boston.
Jesus.
It feels disrespectful to have a 13% voted. Like, this is voted by the GMs, and you can't vote for yourself until like there's
very small sample size, all these things.
Yeah, 50 GMs. Wow. I'd say decent size sample size, but last year, for context, Boston and Denver tied for 33%. And so they still believe they being the NBA GMs. Yeah. They still believe Oklahoma City is the second best team. For context, Denver didn't even receive a vote. Just not a single
that's
so 13% Oklahoma City, 3% Dallas.
No Minnesota either.
No.
Wow.
It was which team will win the 2025 NBA Finals? And then they ranked it out by East and West in terms of just what they received votes for. So who will win the 2025 NBA MVP? Shea, 40%, Luka, 30%, and then everybody else under 10. If you were to start a franchise today, if you could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? Victor, 77%, Shea, 10. I'll keep going. Which player is most likely to have a breakout season? Hint, they're a Oklahoma City Thunder.
I mean, I'm sure J-Dub's there, but I mean, he's kind of already past
number one
designation, I think. He tweeted 13%. That he or somebody on that short list directly replied to the NBA, putting that out and said, it might have been John Moran, honestly. No, definitely was. I think he's third or fourth on that.
Yeah.
Was talking about how he's above the breakout list, which no, he's not. But
yeah, it's crazy.
So I did see that one.
Best point guard, Shea, second, 30% behind Luka. Best shooting guard, Shea, third, 20% behind Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards. Yep. Sure. And then a couple of just, go down the list here. The fact that Jokic didn't receive every single vote for best center in the NBA is asinine to me. Again, not
really
anything to do with, not anything to do with what we're talking about now. Which team made the best, and this is where I'm landing my point, 15 minutes in. Which team made the best overall moves this offseason? Oklahoma City, 37%. Philadelphia, 33%. New York, 20%. This obviously
my guess would have been New York.
Some point, exactly. And it is New York. Like, I love Caruso and I love Hartenstein.
Right.
But that doesn't make them the unanimous number one seed in the Western Conference when it was a one game different last year. And they really could be. They could be a 62-win team, and I really wouldn't be surprised at all. But that doesn't mean that these two guys, I just want to make sure that the point is known, that it does not mean Caruso and Hartenstein. That is not the driving force for the best team in the West. But then also, it's not going to be the driving force for why people should believe that they were the best overall move. Their best overall move was making the East or Western Conference Finals last year and getting better as a team and retaining that team and adding good pieces. I just want to make sure I'm differentiating my points is all I just want to make it abundantly clear that it's stupid to think that Caruso and Hartenstein are that much of an improvement when the real improvement is this team being this good last year without them and making it that far and being a PJ Washington, 8 for 10 3-point performance or whatever the heck it was.
Like 3 of them, yeah.
From being in the Western Conference Finals as the youngest team in NBA history to do that.
Sure.
That's the offseason move that was incredible. It was getting better and retaining everybody and continuing the development and growth, which is why I don't think 2 is disrespectful. It was a really long-winded way to get to that point, but I want you to understand why I was putting them there. And then the audience, when they go, "Oh my God, no! Every single person on planet Earth should have Oklahoma City 1." I'm going to tell you that
I don't even
the
believe
Caruso
that.
Hartenstein thing is stupid. Like having that much faith and belief in those 2 players is crazy, even though they're both incredible. So
it's more of what they accomplished as far as OKC shoring up weaknesses and addressing needs. I mean, if you want to go based on talent, Bridges Towns, I mean, there is no parallel when you match up 2 versus 2.
And it's not even comparing the New York thing. It's more for me that just people need to really understand how awesome last year actually was in the grand scheme of NBA history.
Oh, sure. And I mean, to the seed line underachieved, sure, but pretty fluky series both ways, but more so with Dallas's role players playing like, NBA 75 guys. But, those wounds will heal with time. And I think similar to last year when they won 57 games and locked up the 1 seed, I think they're very capable of matching that or even bumping up closer to 60 wins. I don't know if I'm quite in line with a 60-win season just because, one, I don't think it'll take that to capture the West. There's too much parity. But it is interesting. The win total is 56.5. So you're banking on a net, not improvement or regression there. So if they have the same win total as last season, 57, you're getting the over by the hook there. So I've been surprised that it hasn't moved at all. I've been keeping track of it periodically, but then that is the top win total in the West. They are tied with your pick for the 1 seed in Denver. I'm sorry, that was last year. No, they are the highest win total in the West, second only to obviously Boston.
Okay. Just fun nugget. Dagnall was second in best coach in the NBA according to the GMs. I'm done with the GMs, I promise.
Spoelstra.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
That's 87 to 13. So, which insane. All right. So win totals for Denver and OKC really quick.
OKC 56.5 and Denver is 50.5.
Over on both. Comfortable.
I'm with you. Yeah.
That's it.
Denver could be 6 games worse and still hit that. So I'm with you.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's something.
And they're my 2 seed.
The fishy line. That's the fishy line.
Our wavelengths are pretty close here. No, I will say, a transaction by my then 2 seed caused me to flip here. But I do have Denver now too. So
okay. Anything about them that we kind of went through them for the first 15 minutes, obviously, but I mean, it was just because I sprung them on you to get it out of the way. But
all I had to see was PJ Hall on that team, and I decided, you know what, they're going to be right there up in.
I really hope he plays. All jokes aside,
him and Hunter Tyson. Yeah.
Hunter, we'll see. I watched him play live a couple times. He needs to grow into his NBA body. I'll say that.
Sure.
Okay, so then maybe we are in I say lockstep again, 1 game apart, technically. Mm-hmm. Who do you have at 3?
I have Minnesota at 3.
Okay, let me ask. Who do you have at 4?
I have Dallas at 4.
Okay. I feel fine about the fact that we have the same top 4. I feel fine knowing that there's a clear, hard line in the sand at 4. Okay.
Oh, it's just like Boston. Yeah, no, that's
so Boston, New York, or is it like Boston? I know you said earlier Boston.
Yeah.
Space.
Yes.
Breath. Boston. Breath.
Right. Yeah. Right.
New York, Philly. Breath.
Milwaukee,
and then everyone else, right?
for
So
me.
okay, so it's clearly these four, and
Yes,
they're
no,
all in the
this is
same
the
tier.
quartet. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
let's do Minnesota first. I have Minnesota at 4. So talk me through Minnesota, and then more specifically, now that we've kind of talked about the East and kind of how some things fell together, what was
Mhm.
their motive for the Cat deal?
I think it was looking down the barrel of being short of a title team and the tail end of his contract, which you can argue whether he deserves it or not. That's fine. He could deserve it and teams still not want to pay it. Obviously, Rudy Gobert pales in comparison largely as far as asset and what you can get back, especially when you look at what they gave up to bring him in, which will likely not age too well unless, of course, they win a title and no one cares. But I liked getting DiVincenzo. I was talking to you before we flipped the recording button back on. He played the Knicks in the preseason and was pissed. He wanted to fight Randall's dad. He was barking at Tibbs on the sideline. And we haven't even started games that matter yet. These don't even count. We are 9 days out from the opener. That's a night that I believe Minnesota is involved in and the Knicks are not. But whenever that first matchup is, my day is cleared. I am watching that. And that will not be a League Pass night. That will be a Knicks T-Wolves night. Because if he's bringing this vitriol in the preseason, I cannot wait to watch that first matchup between these two teams. But I just think that Randall's a great player. He got a lot of heat. One, he played in the most pressure cooker type media market in the world. And when you don't play to their expectations, which is always, at least in the Knicks case, several levels above what they could actually accomplish. And then the discourse about they're better off without him, which I don't necessarily believe either. I just worry as far as we mentioned, pace of play being an issue earlier in the Eastern side of this. Randall's the kind of guy where he's going to get the ball and you can, get up from the couch, go get something, come back. He's still going to have the ball. There's going to be 9 seconds shorter of the play clock. It's just that's just the reality of what he is as a player, and he's a great player. I just don't know if that's going to bring about a clash in styles where Anthony Edwards wants to go 75 miles an hour everywhere, and me having them 2 and then ultimately landing on 3 is more of a bet on Anthony Edwards because I feel like he's a guy you never want to bet against. I'd rather be wrong putting him a spot or two too high than a spot or two too low, because they overachieved relative to expectations. I don't think anybody saw what he had in store in the postseason for the first 2 series. And obviously, when you lose a series because Luka out duels you for most of it, that's something you can live with. I don't think he can, but he's furious. That's just going to fuel whatever further ascension we see this year. But I don't necessarily love the trade for Minnesota because the Gobert Cat tandem discourse wasn't overwhelmingly positive, but it was at least a known quantity and you kind of knew what you had in it. And now you're introducing unknowns, rather than bet on, essentially running it back and letting Ant raise the ceiling as far as he can, which is pretty high relative to the rest of the league, even the Western Conference. So, the trade made way more sense for me for the Knicks than it did the T-Wolves. I mentioned the financial piece of it, but you can't be penny pinching. I know they're in between ownership groups and all this messy stuff up above the court, but it's more so a bet on Anthony Edwards just fascinating us again, even with expectations raised that much higher.
I've went back and forth for the better part of a month on this trade, which is why I asked you the question. 2 things. I don't think they did it because they hit their ceiling. I don't. I don't think it's that simple to be like I know it's contractually probably a smart thing, like you said. I just have a hard time believing giving up a guy, even as again, not a defender here from me. I have a hard time thinking that what they got back, they sat down, they looked at it on paper, and they said, "Now we're a finals team."
Oh, I agree.
That has to be a thought process. If you're a team with Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert, and you're in the contract situation you're in, and Naz Reid on might be the best contract in the last 25 years. Like it just might. you can't sit there and tell me, and he might be a huge reason for this. They really he
That's
took
true too.
incredible strides last year. Did he end up winning 6th man of the year? I know I voted for him. I don't know. I
He
just can't
should
remember.
have. I think he
I don't
did.
know. Okay. Either way, even if he didn't, it was like Monk's award to lose for like 8 months.
Then he got hurt, and they kind of opened the door. Yeah.
So I don't think it's because they thought they hit their ceiling, because their return, again, not going to get them over the hump. My fear with them now, and maybe it's lazy, I don't know. They kind of now remind me of those Utah teams with Gobert and Mitchell. I know that that's a far-fetched cry between Edwards and Mitchell. I know that that's a weird thing to think about. But I think that they're a lot more similar than they are different. And
that team bubbled up, was a 1 seed, and didn't win 2 series. I mean, that was
at least Cat was somebody that, again, not going to be the first guy in line to defend him, but at least he was somebody that was a dynamic shooter, a dynamic rebounder. You could put him out there and you could trust him offensively in spots. So maybe there's a transitional thought there for how they want their defense to be, because really having Cat versus not having Cat, you're a better defense. You're a better defensive team, and you need to be a better defensive team to beat Denver. Oklahoma City got better in the front court. Dallas, you just need people to throw at Dallas. Like, there's just no, I mean, obviously Lively's good. Even Memphis with Jaren Jackson Jr., Phoenix with Kevin Durant. You need Anthony Davis. I'm just going down the list. You have to have a strong front court, and you have to have guys that can defend. They're just going to be in the same position everyone else has been that's had Rudy Gobert in the last 10 years, and they're going to have to figure out how to play him. And now you have to. He's your only option. I think getting rid of him actually raised more questions for me, and I'm a little concerned. I say that, and I have him 4. I hope my point made sense with the Cat thing. Like, there's just enough confusion about the ceiling thought for them that I would love to revisit this conversation in 25 games. I would love to have a 25-minute segment on the Timberwolves now that we've been able to absorb 25 games of, okay, I really would love to talk about this after like round 2 of the playoffs, but that's just, it's impossible because too many factors play into that. So I hope what I said made sense, but it just seems cataclysmic for a team that really just, would it have killed them to go another year and run this team back?
That's what I expected. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I have them 4. I have Dallas 3. And so I'll just lead with this really quick, and then we'll hit some win totals. Is there really any reason to... I think this is the best point I have in the 2 pods, so I'm just going to very proudly say it with my chest out. Is there really any reason to doubt the Mavs if they get a fully healthy season with Kyrie and Luke after what we just saw?
With the addition of Klay Thompson, there's a wide range of outcomes there. But no, absolutely not. If Kyrie is healthy and cares and is not concerned about the shape of the planet, then I think they are in an excellent spot to disrupt a lot of things we think we know about that top quartet of the West, as close as they may be. Yep. They could rise to the top of that, and it wouldn't shock anyone, because that would likely mean Luka making a serious case for best player in the world.
Like, it just, they did everything they needed to do last year, again, barring role players and some other things. Some of those guys are back. Washington is. I don't hate Dinwiddie. I don't hate Grimes. I don't hate Marshall. Klay, even if it's just put Klay in the corner and tell him to smile and hold his hands out, like, that's 2 dudes that's going to get him the ball. They just are.
Right.
Like, for me, it was just the whole question was the overarching thought of, they overachieved last year in the grand scheme of things, and they really weren't that far away from beating Boston. Like, they were. Boston was marginally better in a lot of spots.
Right.
But those 2 guys are 2 of the best guys in the league, and they're together, and they're a full season now together. We now have enough data to say, okay, now can we trust Kyrie a little bit? I'd say so. And so they're the third. I think they're the 3rd best team in the West, and I think it's like it's almost Sharpie for me. I don't know.
I mean, they're certainly in that top tier, so that's why I included them even in the 4th and last spot, what we kind of perceive that to be. They certainly have earned a place in that through what they've shown and what we think they could show. So, that was going to be my top 4. Like I mentioned, I did flip-flop Denver and Minnesota after, to your point, maybe a bit of a premature shakeup amongst the guys that you put on the floor to win you a title. But I'm glad at least we're in lockstep with who the top 4 are, if not the order exactly.
There's one team that does have the chance to crash the party, and we're about to talk about them, I'm sure. So make sure I have the order right. I have Denver, OKC, Dallas, Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and then yours.
OKC, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas.
Okay. When you say flipped, I see what you mean. Which again,
or I'm sorry, Denver, Minnesota, Dallas. Yeah.
Okay. So Denver's still second. Got it.
Yes.
So we basically have the same 4. Let's hit win total on Dallas and Minnesota, and then we'll hit number 5.
All right. So in descending order, we've got Minnesota at 51.5.
That doesn't seem off at all. So that's good. The West
after 56 wins last year.
Just through three things you've thrown at me. The East, I think 8 of them might be fishy. Like just something might be off about where they landed. And so the West seems a little more normal. Does that seem off to you? Like no,
that's pretty in line with what I thought the bar would be set at.
Okay. 50, you said 51.5?
Yes, for Minnesota.
And they won how many last year? I'm trying to get it pulled up.
56 last year.
Oh, jeez.
So it could be 4 games worse and still hit that.
They can't be 4 games worse without Cat. That seems crazy. Like Vegas knows something we don't. I'm going to go no, I can't do that. I'm going to go over. I think the top 4 all win 50 games. Like I think that's just solid at this point.
Yeah, I went over too. Might not be by
possible
bunch,
though. Is that possible? Now that I say that out loud, 50 games for all the top 5.
Bottom of if the bottom 3 or 4 resemble anything like the East, I think it's possible.
The whole point would be if the West will beat the East in most games that they play against each other, barring some of the
that
top
too.
And so I think that plays into it. 50, I think 50s. If they all win 50, I think that's fair. I do think that's possible. I wonder what that bet is on FanDuel. I might look that up in a minute because that's actually that seems like a crazy thing to think about. If that's not already maybe you just parlay the 4 together, but
right, they've got 50 win. They've got odds to win 50 games. I'm sure you could throw that in a parlay.
I might have to look into that while we're going to the next team here in a second. So I'll go over Minnesota just for sake of sheer logistics here, and then Dallas.
Dallas is 50.5 off a 50-win season last year.
And I think they're better. God, this is so bad. This is where Vegas gets you. This is where they get you because they now back you into a corner and they go, you can't pick both.
Right. and I went under because I have them 4. They could still win 50 games and slide just under this. So
they would have to be 2 wins better. Correct? Did I get that right?
1 better. They had 50 wins last year and need 51 to hit over here. So I went with under just because I had them 4.
I feel so good about these 4. I'm going to go over. I'm over. I'm over Rich at the top of the West. I just am. So I don't feel bad about it. All right, number 5. I have Phoenix.
Same. Yep.
Okay. See, this is the West. I feel more. I'm having more fun talking about the 5 teams in the West, and yet we're just like, yeah, pretty much the same. No problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a core you believe can win a championship in the next 3 years?
Could. It's not a question. Absolutely. The could's never been the problem. It's just it. Could, if, and should.
Will they win a championship in the next 3 years? Okay, so you're at least solidly saying, okay,
yeah,
we know what. Does it remind you too much of Brooklyn? Like that's just where I keep going back to. I know it's Booker's better than Harden in that case. I get it, but
of course, yeah. I mean,
Beal's worse than Kyrie in that case. I mean, there's a lot of weird parallels there, but
Beal might have missed more games than Kyrie, which is incredibly difficult to do.
That is a trivia question if I've ever heard one. Here, I'll give you why. I'll give you my framework for why I asked that question. So Matt Issa, I want to make sure I get his name right because he's an incredible follow. Matt Issa posted this, and this has been posted many times. If you have Spot Track, like you've seen this probably. They have the 4th, 5th, and 6th highest. I'm going to get the exact tweet pulled up because my internet's just not cooperating with me. They have the 4th, 5th, and 6th highest contracts next season in the entire league. I don't have a question. It's just a comment, and that's it. I mean, I don't. That's what I have for you. I'm going to try to pull this up now and read you why those 3, or who the 3 ahead of them are. But they have 3 of the most expensive players in the NBA on the same roster. And there's so many people that tell me right now, and you've probably heard the same thing, that they marginally did improve around the edges.
Oh, I think they absolutely did.
That many people believing that, though, you're banking a lot on health, because if you really believe that Bradley Beal's having a healthy season, this is a top 4 team in the West.
Yeah, no, they crashed that quartet pretty. Yeah, you get Durant at whatever the peak of his powers are at this point in his career, and it's been tough to see as he traverses the country ring chasing, but he's still very capable of being a big part of a championship team. And then Booker, obviously, probably the high ceiling of the 3, just because he's got so much more room to, he could still ascend a bit. And I think that certainly Beal and Durant, just by virtue of where Durant peaked, is on that slight downslope at this point. Beal, it's more of his body more than his game. But I mean, Tyus Jones, Royce O'Neal, those are guys that, Royce O'Neal I think was retained, but Tyus Jones is one that you didn't see probably a single tweet about, but
he took the minimum to play starting point guard. It was the best. Yeah. It was the best decision he's made in his career, and he's going to make $20 million less than he did the last 3.
Right, and I think that if that's going to be, especially if Beal at any point comes up lame when they're trotting out Grayson Allen every night, like there's now a bit of depth to fall back on, whereas before there was literally zero, like none. So I think slowly but surely, as their cap sheet is just a hellscape, like you only have so many options, and now with the aprons and everything else, which I don't think Ishbia is too concerned with, but it's
literally could care less.
That's going to be a cold reality when this whole experiment ends in 3 to 5 years, and they're left with financial handcuffs, still first round picks moving to the end, just all that crazy stuff that's built in there we haven't quite seen play out yet. But they're
going to be the Brooklyn. They're going to be the Brooklyn of this era of the salary cap.
There's a desert on the horizon for this team. It's just a question if they can crash the party, win a title, and make that desert. Well, we won 12 games this year, but we won a title 2 years ago. Like that's going to be
which the way the league works now, all bets are off. If they win a title, don't care. Literally could care less.
Take that. I mean, look at Toronto. We're talking about can they win 30 games, and they won a title 5 years ago. I mean, it happens that quick
with guys that are still in the league and still valuable to teams that we'll get to in a minute.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nuts to think about. For context, by the way, $55 million for Steph, $51 million for Embiid, $51 million for Jokic, $51 million for Durant, $50 for Beal, $50 million, and 49.2 for Devin Booker.
Who's accomplished less to get to $50 million a year, Embiid or Beal? I mean, team oriented.
It's actually a real question.
Embiid's an MVP, but
Matt Issa 15 is the official at. Matt's a great follower first.
I'll check that out.
So if we're just thinking, and we got to keep going, but if we're just thinking about like, why can't this team be the 5th seed? I mean, they were 6th seed last year. So like at the end of the day,
well, it's health.
It's health, but it's also say they're all healthy.
Yeah.
They get into a playoff series. They're the worst front court in the top 6 without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. And that for me, they could lose first round game because of that. Like there's not enough improvement in that realm where I made the joke about Tyus Jones. Like literally Frank Vogel's like, just pass the ball to these 3 guys. And it's that simple. Right. He'll make $25 million in the next 3 years, make the contract back up quickly. But
sure,
their front, their front court's not good. It's just not good. And
get it across half court, find the Hall of Famer. End of job. Like that's it. That's it.
Find the Hall of Famer is a crazy statement where the third option is Bradley Beal. It's a crazy statement. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I mean, they let everybody in, but we'll see. But I mean,
hey, Vince. Hey, as we're recording this, Vince officially is in. Like they did the thing tonight.
Good.
Shout out
better be. That's yes.
It was really cool. It was really cool to see Vince get in. All right, I sidelined us. I'm sorry. Or sidetracked us. So.
Sure.
Phoenix's win total, because this is, again, for me, the reason I'm asking for win total with one team is because it's top 4. Pause.
Right.
I held the pause for a minute, right? It's Phoenix.
Right.
Pause again.
Who is,
and then the rest of the teams.
Yeah, so that is the end of the win totals to start with a 5.
So
it
Phoenix
drops
is
pretty quick.
okay. So
Phoenix
starts
is
with a
46.5. Coming off 49 wins last season.
I'm gonna go under because if they win 48, I still hit. You said 40 is 49 their line. You said
49 last year. The line this year is 46.5.
I get them mixed up every time you say them. I think that it's the record for the year before. I'm like, if it was 49, it's the easiest under of this entire podcast because they win 48, you win the bet.
Yeah.
I would have to say over because that seems abnormally low for them.
I went over.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so I have 5 straight overs. Stupid. Okay, so are we in agreement though that they are the 5th team pretty handedly if they're healthy? Like it is.
Yeah,
it is
I'm
there.
with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if they're healthy, they're probably not 5. So yeah.
All right, then who do you have at 6? This is where it gets gross.
I have Sacramento.
Wow.
They're my Toronto.
This is going to get really weird really fast. Let me just tell you why. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it right now. I have Sacramento at 10.
Oh my goodness.
That is that might be the biggest difference between two teams of any exercise we've ever done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quick. Let me just ask this now then. Where do you have Memphis? To not let this go like in 500 directions in the next 5, because this is we can do 6 to 10 in 20 minutes. We just can't.
Right. Yeah.
Where do you have Memphis?
I have them 8.
This is falling apart so fast. Oh God. All right. I have to play host for a second.
Go ahead.
I can't figure out where to go because Sacramento completely just derailed everything I was going to do next. So, oh God. Okay.
Do you have the Lakers there? Is that?
I have them at 7. I have the Lakers at 7.
So New Orleans 6.
I have Memphis at 6. I thought Memphis 6 was the next obvious thing. Okay. So
no,
all right, let's do Memphis because there's some doubt. I get it.
We'll do Memphis. Yeah.
Go ahead. I know I like where you're going already because it was 30. It was 3 points, 3 seconds.
I'm going to read you verbatim my little byline on Memphis. Why so unserious? And that's directed at the point guard. That's what it's going to come down to.
Okay.
He is Kyrie when he was crazy. Junior.
Kyrie Light. Yeah, Kyrie Light. Yeah.
Right.
Totally fair.
I mean, you tried to put on this persona like you didn't go to private school all the way through, and then it results in you not only assassinating your own self-image and embarrassing your family and the few good friends you have based on what activities you're taking part in at the hours that he's taking part in them in, and then just the Labrum thing, I was genuinely. I didn't want to see that. I wanted him to be
it's a bad
healthy
for a basketball player. It's just
right. I wanted a guy like him. I wanted him to be eligible, which has been him. And you should not be chasing down Draymond for the most games you cannot play in because of the league office. I mean, and he's lucky it was only 25 because for what the accumulation of this stupid stuff he has done is such a detriment to who he is. I'm sure as a person, when you dig past the fake thing he puts up for the people in his circle that need to be removed and quickly. And I want to believe in him so bad because if John Morant is 80% of what he was we'll just summarize as nonsense. Like they're going to be clear of the plan. They're going to be a great team. They have great young pieces. They have Zach Edey now in the fold. Gigi Jackson is one of the highest floor ceiling guys in the whole NBA. Like we saw a lot of run from him when they had like the G League
there
Invitational.
There are people losing jobs because of his performance. Like there are scouts right now that are unemployed because of Gigi Jackson, without a doubt.
And they showed so much prominent. They had an injury season from hell last year. That's inarguable. Like that's the reality of what it was.
It's largely the same team.
It is. But I think John Morant is so integral into where that team ends up because he's so talented when he is not just acting like an idiot. And I want to believe in it so bad, but I've seen more bad than good from him in the last 3-4 years. It's just, I don't believe he can flip a switch and become someone focused on his team, let alone sports again.
So the 8, it makes total sense because until that last 2 sentences, I was like, well, why don't you just have him at 6? But 8 is just a fair hedge that if he because again, it's not just assured like sanity for him being out there and not making stupid decisions. It's also like that labrum's a real concern. Like it just is.
It is.
No. So it's a hedge on if he does miss time, whether it's for one reason or the other. Then 8's a good hedge. I'm with you. Okay. I almost felt trapped to like everyone's just like, okay, there's a top 5, top 6, and then Memphis is right there on the. Some people think Memphis is going to be a top 4 seed again. Like I just don't see it. But they have a real ground to stand on. They got Edie, whether you like Edie or not, big or tall, or whatever is skilled or tall. He's really good, and he's shown so far that he's going to at least be out on the floor, and people are going to have to figure him out. And then Morant throwing him the ball, like they can't be worse. Like worse as in if it's the same team, they can't just like regress. Like if it's the same health, John Morant, all that. Like if they just replicate 2 years ago, they add Zach Edey, they re-sign Kennard, GG's better.
Yeah, they're excellent.
I see the path. I really do. And so I think if the high expectation for them was for the world was 4 and the low is 8, I kind of feel better after this 10-minute conversation about Memphis. I actually feel better now at 6 because of that. Because I get where 8 goes. I get where 4 goes. I think 6 is fair, but I totally understand why you have an 8. So, who do you have at 7? Because I'm trying to unpack this list, and I'm like, it sounds like, I'm going to save that. Who do you have at 7?
The Lakers at 7.
Okay, so let's just do them now really fast because we really don't need to spend forever on them. The same place they've finished the last 3 seasons if they do it again.
Yeah.
I'm just going to very, very carefully say this.
We talking draft now? Is that?
No. Careful optimism. JJ already is impressing me. I knew he's intelligent. I knew he knows what he's talking about. I know he sees the game in a certain way that just some guys don't. He demands a lot from these guys for being a 37-year-old that just was their teammate not that long ago. And he reminds me a lot of Dan Hurley in that kind of way, where like asking a lot of these guys, like thinks about that basketball that kind of way. I'm in no way comparing them. Please do not aggregate that. He seems very, very up for it. And I'm just saying that with careful optimism. Excuse me. The issue is it's basically the same team for 3 years, marginal around the edges, healthy LeBron and AD. They've never been able to get past that tier with those two guys fully healthy. And so it's not going to be JJ is the reason, but is 4 or 5 in play in any way for you? Like, is that like a possibility? Obviously, it would take catastrophic injuries.
I would say, yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to say it. Careful optimism. I really like JJ. I really like what I've seen so far. I don't watch preseason very much. I don't really take any stock in it. We've already said that. Those games are fake, basically. But yet there's just things that he said, he's done, he's emphasized that just, like even the plays that they ran out the gate were better than any play that Darvin Ham drew up in the last 2 years. And so that has to matter. 7 feels right, but I'm carefully optimistic. That was kind of where I landed the plane.
I mean, if the players in the huddle are watching the coach scribble out the play, that's progress. That's just how little respect Ham commanded, which is in some ways his fault and a lot of other ways not his fault. I just worry about the same thing. It's like, LeBron James is a lot of things, and unfortunately, he's also a coach killer. So, I mean,
this is the first guy. This is the first coach he's respected since Spoelstra.
I think that's true. I just hope you're essentially banking on that continuing over months, which
I have no reason to think it couldn't. Yeah,
I just think it is so. Everything is just tentative with the front office and Pelinka and everything else. I don't know. I mean, they got it, Bronny in there. That was the most shoe-in Sharpie thing ever. Which again, I've said on the record with you, I have no issue with it. They got Connect
today, so yeah, I'm with you.
Connect, great value pick. I don't know how he quite fell that far. I know he's 23, and everybody else in the draft is like 15. Doesn't matter. He's electric.
Yeah, according to NBA people in this kind of draft, he's 33. So yeah, it's
which fair, because he'll last longer than half these other first round picks, I bet, if
Without a doubt.
initial returns are what we can go off of. But I think, can D'Angelo Russell step out of the trade machine? Can Reeves take a step forward? Things like that. Like, there are pieces in place that could make them, I don't think they'll crack the top 4, but I think if Phoenix stumbles with who they can throw out on the floor, they could then overtake them as that lead chase group team at 5. But I thought 7 felt a bit more appropriate, just given, JJ Redick, like you said, I don't really watch the preseason, hand up. Sorry. Like, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. So that, to me, you're also, a Lakers fan, but you're watching attentively. So that tells me that there's, if you have optimism, I feel better about where I have them.
He's saying the right things. It reminds me of a college coach that I'm uncertain about. Like, I'm trying to figure out I don't want to go down this rabbit hole today, but he reminds me of a college coach that got a job that maybe you weren't like. How do I word
Well, he
this?
certainly wasn't qualified for it, but beside the point.
He reminds me of a mid-major or low major that pulls off a Sweet 16 run as a 15 seed, and then they get like a really big job the next year. Everything seems great out the gate, but you've got to build a winner in a program 2 levels higher now. Yeah. JJ's going from coaching middle schoolers to coaching LeBron James and Anthony Davis. That's going up 100 steps, but he's intelligent. I think it's
add a 0 to that. Yeah.
All-time PR flip for me on a guy that, like, I was like taught to hate. My dad's a Duke fan, and I just was taught to hate him, like, because I hated him growing up. I just did. So it's weird. It's one of those things that, like, not see it to believe it, but I want to see it long enough. Like, I think you're right. Like, I want to see it long enough where what is the respect level game 40? I think that's fair.
Right. Or game 2 or 3 of a playoff series, you're down 1-0, 2-1. It's crunch time. LeBron wants to run something. JJ says no. Then what? Like,
so far, what he's ran has worked. That's why I'm like, okay.
Right. And we're not litigating the playoffs, but it's just, I think for the regular season, I'm more confident in the regular season that it going. There's just so much less pressure in the regular season.
Correct. Yeah.
Although if they're in play-in territory, then every game the last 2 weeks matters, obviously, because you could find yourself out of it all if you run bad those last couple of games. But no, I felt pretty good about them at 7.
I don't want to run Sacramento over with a bus. I don't. Like, I'm not this is not intentional, but I have them at 10, and so we're eventually just kind of I'm trying to feel it out as we go and try to predict your 8, 9, 11, 12 now, because Sacramento literally derailed everything I had in terms of just kind of the natural flow of how this is going to go, which, again, I want you to defend yourself. I really do. But who do you have at 8? And that'll determine where we go next.
Well, I had Memphis at 8.
Who do you have at 9?
I've got New Orleans at 9.
I'm so confused. Okay. All right. Why can't San Antonio make the play-in?
I have them 11, so they're not,
I have them at 8.
I would love for you to hit that on the head, not me. But it's just, they're just so
crazy thing. This is not for show, I promise.
They were a 22 win team last year.
How much is Chris Paul worth to you?
Wasn't worth anything to Golden State, who was not far from 22 either. But I think as a mentor, priceless. We saw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander before he got there, after he got there. The rest is history. Obviously, Victor's not a guard. I realize that. But just that presence, I think if they had paid Chris Paul $20 million and told him, we don't even want you to play, we just want you to be in the locker room with Wembanyama, you do it. Harrison Barnes, I hope he can mentor, because I don't think he has much on the floor at this point. But
unfortunately,
he's better than what they had out there last year, because I know he's not going to fix the guard issue, which, again, if they had drafted at 8, I'd probably be closer to the play-in than you. But they dealt it to Minnesota for a 30 swap and a 31, which is fine. But I think they were so much better off using that pick now and just trying to pick up as much team as you can behind what may be, at some point, one of the best players of all time. And when you're trading,
I'm never going to flinch
guards,
when you say something like that about him. I'm just not. Let's just establish that now because we're going to be doing pods
I'll
for God
never
knows
say
how
it
long.
again about anybody else.
Well, fair, but like you say it. You and anybody else I've ever talked to Victor about, like people say that statement and then they like hold their breath for 4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I just want people to know, like you and everyone listening, for hopefully hundreds and thousands of people, it's okay to say that stuff and not hesitate. Like
No,
until he has some stupid thing happen to him, I'm not even going to say
right,
the I word, but like everything we saw last year, I have clear optimism to think that it's not just Chris Paul, it's this team getting better. It's him getting better. Like he gets better. Is that not worth 5 wins minimum? And then Chris Paul, and then Vassell, and then Keldon Johnson. I like all those guys. I think they're all great players.
right. But when you start at
Eight's rich.
22,
Yeah, I know.
it's
Eight's
such
rich.
a steep hill to climb in 1 year, and the win total, which we'll get to eventually, reflects optimism on the part of.
My argument will make a lot more sense when we get to 11 through 13 because there are
Sure.
some teams there that we clearly are disagreeing on.
Yeah.
I just have clear concerns and doubts where at least there's a glimmer of hope. So,
sure, they have the highest ceiling of any team. We'll mention the rest of this back half of the West, but I just think it's too much too soon. I think a year from now, we'll both have them at worst in the 8th spot. That's another year of Victor. That's another year of they are adding NBA caliber players, and they were lacking
Castle
that a
takes
bit
a leap too. I believe
last
in
year.
Castle.
Correct.
So,
right. And Castle in the same room as CP3, also priceless.
Didn't even think about that, and I'm so glad you said that. That's yes, yes, that would be awesome.
And so, again, if they had just kept 8, added another player, which now we're hopeful can be a constant contribution in a positive light. I hated that trade for San Antonio.
Dillingham, I mean, they traded him, and Dillingham is now a Timberwolf, and Timberwolf, and that's that they could. I mean, they're not going to lose sleep over it, but like they're going to think about that one for a while.
They might.
It's tough.
They might.
I'm not the biggest Rob fan, draft wise or at Kentucky, but that kid was incredible. He's an NBA scorer at the bare minimum.
Yeah,
I don't know. That is
when your return on that comes up in
versus not.
When the return on that comes around in 5 or 6 years, I can't buy it.
When it's an 8th grader, yeah. When it's Rob Dillingham or an 8th grader, I'm cool with Rob Dillingham. Yeah, lockstep.
You take it now. You're never going to get Victor again. You do it now. I'd rather rush it than the alternative. But Castle, obviously excellent player. I thought it was a great pick. The addition of CP3 is going to do immeasurable things on and off the court for really everybody in the organization. I mean, we saw the impact he had on Oklahoma City, a team that should not have made the playoffs, and they made it. So maybe you're onto something here with 8. But I think
him and Pop together, I can't wait. Like they're going to be my wife's going to be like, "What are we doing on a Tuesday?" I'm going to go, it's Thunder Pelicans, and that's what I'm doing. Or not Thunder Pelicans. Yeah. I looked at the wrong team. It's Spurs Pelicans, and it's a Tuesday night. And I'm like, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm sorry. I just am.
Oh, exactly.
So, all right. We skipped over Sacramento long enough.
Yeah.
The gap from 6 to 10 is not that far, all things considered. It really isn't.
Sure.
It's going to be tight as ever from 6 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say this really quick, and I'd love to hear the rest. Mm-hmm. In Mike Brown's tenure, they finished 3rd in the first year and 9th in the second. The West is always that is a big disparity, but the West is always going to be like 6 feels in the grand scheme of how the rest of the West is. Basically, if it's not top 6, they're a play-in team that I think they get in there, then they can beat anybody kind of thing. That was kind of where I landed.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough teams ahead of them for me, and we'll get into kind of why teams behind them are where they are. I think a lot of people are going to have bigger questions with why I have some of the teams behind them versus like why I have a San Antonio ahead of them, why I have whoever at 9 we'll get to. I just have too many questions about the teams behind them that they kind of ended up in that spot because of sheer, I think the top 2 are at least that talented if they're healthy. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it just when we get to 11, it'll make a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, 6 is crazy. I'm not crazy as in bad, but just crazy as in I'm not there and I can't figure out why.
It's blind optimism and DeRozan having one more year.
Okay, so that played a big part of that.
That was a huge part to me because I think they've been kind of, you mentioned regular season success, regular season tailed off a bit. That was a lot of injuries. Herter was hurt, Monk was hurt, etc. They were clearly lacking something when they were the 3 seed and made the run. I think DeRozan has 1, maybe 2, likely 1 year left of where he's top of the scouting report. Obviously, he's going to take a backseat to Fox and Sabonis. Maybe not down the stretch closing games, but as far as the hierarchy within that organization, they've already been pretty well established. That's not going to change. But I think he in Chicago, where no one cared because they were anywhere from 9th to 12th every year for what felt like a decade.
Chicago. Yeah.
Right. I just think if he was playing that good with that little actual reward at the end of the road for him, I think he realizes where he is in his career. He sees former teammates like Lowry can barely check into games for contending teams. I think that's going to really make it clear to him that this is his last chance to make some noise. And he's going from the East to the West, which is usually not the route you want to go as far as increasing your impact on the league as a whole. But I just think the home court advantage is excellent. I think they are well coached enough they're not going to be the 3 seed again. That's just not going to happen. But to fall somewhere in the middle of, like you mentioned, the 3 and then the 9. And I think I'm banking a bit on, guys like Herter and Monk not going down at the most inopportune times. I know Monk was very late in the regular season and honestly cost him the 6-man award, if we're remembering correctly, and Nas won it. But
I need to just look that up and stop speculating.
Yeah, I know. It's more of a fun thing. Like, this team is fun when they're good. They were electric, must-see TV when they were the 3 seed. I think they're still box office. Things are clicking like the beam. Although, okay, good. So we're not crazy.
Yeah.
So it's
I was
more,
like, hello. Anyway.
Yeah, it's more of a one last ride for DeRozan. We've seen what we've already can expect from Fox and Sabonis. I think that's a pretty good duo. Although in the West, you match up duos, that's not enough. We've seen that. That's clear. So they're going to need contributing pieces to contribute more, and they're going to need, I think, like I said, one last excellent year, especially in clutch moments from DeRozan, to put them into the worth mentioning tier of the West.
Yeah, you said it a minute ago, and you ended with it. That was the biggest light bulb I've had today with different teams. They were, I believe, number 1 in clutch last year, or was it the year before? I can't remember. One of those 2 years they were number 1. They've been one of the most clutch teams in the NBA. Final 5 minutes. I know some of that stuff is inflated, but Fox is a huge reason for that. And they added the guy that won or was in the running top 3 for clutch player of the year last year. You might be onto something. And if it comes down to, they play Los Angeles, they played Memphis, that's the Lakers, that is. They play the Spurs, they play the Pelicans, whoever. They're going to win those games down the stretch more than they're going to lose them. It's a good point. It's again, I'm not saying I feel wrong by any stretch of the imagination, because I still feel like they're a play-in team. They're still in the playoffs, is my point. Like, they're still going to play in as the playoffs. At the end of the day, it's stupid. Like, it's what it is. They would not be, if play-in didn't exist, like we used to do this 1 through 8, like, they're not an 8 seed to me. They're a 9. Like, they missed the playoffs, which is why I'm kind of glad the play-in exists, because we're talking about teams from 7 to 10 that, especially this year, like, the West, like, 7 could be a play-in team, or 7 could be a playoff team, barring injuries. 8, 9, all these teams could be playoff teams, barring injuries. So, injuries of teams ahead of them. So let's recap a couple. Let's hit some win totals, and then we'll kind of keep moving. So we got about an hour in, when the bottom of the West is not as bad as the bottom of the East, I think. So who have we hit? Who have we not hit win total wise that we've talked about?
I think we're through the top 5.
Did we do Memphis?
We did not. Their win total is 46.5. They would need to be 20 games better than last year to hit that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm at 6, but I'm gonna have to go under because if I think there's a drop off, somebody has to eventually go under, and I've gone over the first 5, so I'm just gonna, for the sake of normalcy, I'll go under. Sanity, I don't know, whatever word you want to use. I'll go under, but they could win
Yeah,
47.
I mean
They
they're
could go
8 for me, so
the
that's
47 wins could be the 60. 48 wins could be this. I mean, it literally
yeah.
the West, the top of the West is that good. I'll go under, but I don't feel great about it. That's the one I'm not putting real money on.
Yeah, by virtue of where I've got them slotted at 8, that's an under for me.
What about the Lakers?
The Lakers are 42.5 coming off a 47 win season. I quadruple check because that does not seem correct. And that was one of my easier no thought overs.
Vegas always knows something, and I may or may not hedge on an under just out of the sheer fact of at least I win money if they suck. And so the Ira Lee method, if you know, you know. I'll go over.
Yeah, somebody in Vegas heard JJ and LeBron screaming at each other on the phone somewhere. I don't that
Something's that's who was the fishy one
mean,
earlier? I said there was a fishy one earlier, and I was like, I'm
was it Atlanta?
Oh, but yeah, I think it was, and I was like, something's off about that. I didn't think there was.
Atlanta
I
at
didn't think there was
35.5.
Yeah. That's what it was. Okay, and then what about Sacramento? Since we've talked about them,
Sacramento is 45.5. They would need to replicate the 46 wins they had last year to hit that.
I have to go under. I have them at 10.
I'm going over. I think they at least got one game better with the addition of DeRozan.
So now it gets really gross. Who do you have at 9?
9.5 New Orleans.
I have Houston.
Okay, I have Houston 10. So we're not.
Okay, so you do have them in the play. See, this is I didn't know where this was going. I thought this was going to get again. I thought this was going to continue to spiral because I thought you were going to be like, yeah, Houston's not like they're 12, and I'm like, oh god, okay. So because they are eventually going to have to be better, like they just are. So
law of averages. Yeah.
You have them 10, which obviously unlimit. Let's just do process of elimination. Use our brains here. I have New Orleans out of the playoffs, which is probably I'm probably in the minority, big time. But let's do Houston really fast because I do think they're better. I do think that they're the continuity team if there ever is one. I know I'm using college basketball analogies here where it's like, okay, this team returns everybody and everyone's happy and the good coach and whatever. They figured something out down the stretch. They just did. Yes. They figured out how to utilize Jalen Green. They figured out how to utilize Jabari Smith. That was obviously missing Şengün for a lot of that. You know, they lost Şengün for a long stretch of the season. They were middle of the pack last year. I wrote down literally and statistically. They were 41-41, 16th in scoring offense and 14th in scoring defense. If either of those improve, they're a play-in team. Like, just simple statistics. Obviously, there's a lot of other things you can throw at me otherwise, but it wouldn't be you. You have them 10. And then this was kind of what did it for me, right? I like Udoka. All the off-court stuff aside that we just magically forget about because just this is the world we live in with sports and pop culture. But he's an incredible coach. He's an incredible motivator. Those guys clearly, you know, they'll get rid of the guys that just don't want to play for him. I know that's more of a college. Again, I'm using all these college analogies, but he's kind of like that kind of guy. I mean, he got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to get off their tail and make the finals. Like, really? Like that's something to really think about. And so this is what did it for me. They finished 17-10 post All-Star break, and or 17-11. You're like, okay, 17-11 doesn't sound great. It's a winning record, which is I think is important to think about. There's always a few teams that you've heard me say this 1,000 times, so this is nothing new to you. But you heard me say, like, keep an eye on any team that maybe doesn't make the playoffs, but has a great, who's that either team that jumps into the playoffs really high. In the last couple of years, it was Sacramento. In this case, watch out for the team that maybe builds for next year, right? Looking at contract situation. And so they went on an 11-game win streak from March 8th to March 29th, and they posted a 13-2 record in March. They figured it out. Something clicked.
Definitely.
Jabari was incredible. And so I'll reframe the question this way. I said, what will it take for this team to jump into the 6th seed? No, you know what? I'm asking like that. Is actually the other way to think about it. Is there something to jump this team into the 6th seed range?
There is. I just don't know. I mean, it would take a multitude of things happening consecutively.
There's no clear number one. I mean, Şengün is obviously their best player,
Right.
but that's not the way they're going to play. And so that,
No.
like, if you go, okay, it's this guy ascending, is it really Jabari Smith? I don't know.
It's not going to raise their ceiling to the point where they're sixth in a loaded West.
Correct. Exactly.
So. 7 or 8, you could talk me into. I just think clear of the play-in would be an overachievement on their part and severe underachievement from 2 or 3 teams that just there's no way to foresee it.
There's a lot that has to happen. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Anything else about Houston? I went on a little bit of long there, but
Steven Adams is there now. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, is he going to change Şengün's defensive ability? Maybe not, but he'll at least be able to teach him. That's good.
Sure. Yeah.
That has to help. I mean, I think Ime another year with him is not going to kill Şengün either. Just has to stay healthy. You can't break what I think it was broken foot or something like that. You just can't break your feet.
Something.
Like it's that simple. Like if you're a big man, like you just got to be careful. There's nothing you can do about it. That's just one of those injuries. Like they can't let that pile on. So, okay. Let's address the elephant or the pelican in the room. I should have led with pelican. That was funnier. I have him at 11, and it's as simple as this. It's as simple as the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. And a lot of things can be said for all the teams in the NBA. Like there's teams that just Detroit, for example, right? Draft the same 6th overall pick for 6 years and expect a different, like it's just insanity. It's mental gymnastics. Expecting the same Zion's now not overweight or hurt or any of these examples that you just want to, again, I'm trying to be very careful and not trash the guy because that's not the case. To expect the same result over and over again and to expect CJ McCollum to be a point guard and that be okay for 82 games, regardless of what Zion, like their whole bet is Zion being healthy and being their quote unquote point forward. Like that is their entire future. That is what they're depending on. And spoiler, I don't think it's going to work because even if he is fully healthy, you still don't have somebody that's a consistent playmaker. It's not CJ McCollum. I'm sorry. And not extending Trey Murphy is probably going to come back to bite them in the tail when he gets $68 million in the offseason and he ends up in Houston and they are now a 5 seed because of that. Like Trey Murphy's that kind of player if he can stay healthy. He's definitely been hurt recently. But like we're already getting reports from Shams, whatever his name is, that Herb Jones is playing center this year.
Is the center. Yeah. Yeah.
That's my question was for you was how viable do you think that'll be? The answer is it's not.
Well, no, it's not. I'm essentially banking on some sort of move somewhere to alleviate that, and it's not signing Daniel Tice, so we can forget about that.
I don't want to throw Murray under the bus here, though. I don't, because separating from Trey can't be a bad thing. That's the point guard. I know I just made out the whole example about point guard. I promise people are going to be like, well, he just forgot about Murray. I didn't. Murray wants to score the ball. Murray does not want to pass the ball. That is very clear. There's a very clear distinction in those. Now, is Murray a decent defender? Yeah. Can that be something they can rely on in playoff spots? No, absolutely not.
No.
I just have too many questions and too many things are going wrong too quickly in the last 2 to 3 years that I just if the expectation is, okay, San Antonio, yeah, maybe I'm a little rich. Houston, maybe I'm a little rich, right? Memphis even. You eventually just have to go with what can you be confident in with these 6 through 10 teams. I'm not confident in anything the Pelicans do or are.
Yeah, it's a big bet on. Sure, it's a big bet on Zion Williamson. It's a big bet on McCollum not regressing at the alarming rate he has in recent years, and could that be a little bit of buy-in? Maybe. Murray's going to have to click pretty early if they're going to stay even in the play-in range of this Western Conference. You just don't have a lot of margin for error as far as just lulls in winning basketball, whether it's because of roster turnover or injury or whatever it is. And yeah, the Herb Jones center thing is absurd. I'm pretty sure my guy Trey Jamison's over there, but if you're starting him at center, you have an issue. And can they hold on long enough to stay in that play-in range and get something at the deadline? I don't know. I don't feel great about banking a team season on what they do 2/3 of the way through this year, whatever it comes out to. But it's just, and if they trade Brendan Ingram, then forget it. This is all for naught. But
I did my whole rant and obviously didn't even include him because it's just he hasn't been consistent. So there's no reason for me to be like, well, that's the sure piece.
No. And I'm not going to mention it in support of them even being the plan, because we've known, just like Zion, that it's there 1 week and it's not there the next month. And that's just kind of how it is.
If I threw playoff seating out the window for you really quick, if they overachieved or underachieved, whatever you think of that answer, what would you be more surprised by?
I'd be more surprised if they overachieved, especially relative where I have them.
So then there's no reason I should have them any higher than 10, which is why I'm at 11. That was exactly what it came down to for me.
Yeah, I mean, if they're the 8 seed, something has gone spectacularly right. And I think they're 9, and we've seen the back end of the West postseason wise come down to a game here, game there. So it's really just, I want Zion to continue to be healthy so badly, because his other South Carolina native star player is just hell bent on being an idiot all the time. So
it was a heck of a draft class for South Carolina. It really was. It was a heck of a draft class. Even though Zion, by the way, if you look up lists of where he's from, I'm defending South Carolina in this regard. People, he's technically born in North Carolina, and people claim that. It's like the Jordan, New York thing. It's stupid.
So, well, that does not fit my narrative. So if John Morant was locked in the team facility, excellent. Do it. I'd do it. I don't know why they haven't already, but do it. And lock him in the team plan on the road, or hotel. DeAndre Jordan, chair in the door, just do not let him leave. But there's laws and other things in place that prevent that. So no, I am, for the sake of my home state, banking on Zion. I think this team, when they're clicking, is a formidable team in the West. They gave the Thunder hell in what was a very, very, very close 4-game series in the first round after they came out of the play-in last season. So I'm kind of thinking, are they better? No. I'm banking on them not being that much worse, and they can still slot into similar where they ended up last year. So
we have them 1 spot apart, and it feels like they're an eternity apart.
That just speaks to the West. That's just where
it's crazy. It's crazy that you just gave me the most unconvincing 10 argument, and I gave you the most unconvincing 11 argument, and we're like, yeah, well, that's probably.
I've got a 9, but yeah, no,
9, yeah, even better. Even better that we have them 2 spots apart, and it feels like, okay, cool. One of them's in the bottom of the Grand Canyon, one of them's not. It's just stupid. So here's the fun part about the end of the West. Oh, let's do the win totals real quick, and we'll spend less than 13 minutes on the next 3. So, who have we didn't hit Houston, and we didn't hit New Orleans, right?
All right. So Houston 41-41 last year. I think you alluded to that. 43.5 is the win total for this season.
What did I hate to do this on the fly, but what did the 9 seed do last year? I'm genuinely curious, because I want to know. I know that doesn't necessarily help me out with my answer right this second, but it's
a historical landmark at least.
While it's loading, if you have an answer confidently, let me know.
It was 46 wins by the Kings last year, which we've already mentioned. So 46 was good for a tie with the Warriors for the 9th seed.
Wow. I guess if you really think about it, do I really think Houston's going to be one more time their win total this year?
It's 43.5, so it had to be 3 games better.
They have to be 3 games better, which would put them at still out of the playoffs if we went off. Everybody had the same record as last year, just in whoever's in those spots.
Right.
Somebody has to regress. I'm going to say over slightly.
Yeah, I had over as well.
Okay. I wished I had looked at last year's standings. I know you're not supposed to, it's like fantasy. You don't look at the year before performance. You try not to do that. But I forgot there was a 5-game drop between Golden State and Houston. This year, I wonder. I think all these teams from 8, maybe 9 to 11 or 12 are going to be really close. I think it's going to be that kind of regular season no matter at the end of the year. So, okay. And then New Orleans win totals.
New Orleans is 45.5. They had 49 wins last season, so 3 games worse. You still hit over.
Really? God. I have to go under because of where I think they finish. So I don't feel great about
Yeah.
it.
I'm going under, and I'm going to need it to be like 45. I mean, it's got to be right there.
Way under. Yeah. All right. This is weird because I didn't think so. The Sacramento again. The train fell off the tracks right when that happened, and so I did not think we would have the same. I did not. There's two teams I did not think we would have where we have them, and we do, and so I'm very happy. And
Yeah,
I think we're both right, and I feel good about it.
Yeah.
At 12, I have Golden State. At 13, I have the Clippers.
I have them in reverse order, but those two teams. Yeah.
So let's just 2 seconds on Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like a final ride off into the sunset.
I can't wait.
Here's the issue, though. He's really good still. He being Steph Curry. Let me do this for the listeners.
Sure.
He might play for 3-4 more years. And so are they really thinking about retooling? Because their contracts tell me they are.
It's so do the on-court returns. They don't really have a choice.
It's confusing. So my question is, maybe we don't have time for it. Maybe we do. They extended Green, and I don't see them trading him. I just don't.
Stupid.
Yeah. It was. Would you trade Wiggins and begin the final teardown, or would you spend the next year or so like the Mavs did with Dirk?
I think they'll do the latter because they owe it to Steph for putting up with this kind of garbage the last couple years. I know they just won a title a couple years ago in 22, but I mean,
literally not that long ago.
Which again, it happens fast.
It does, yeah.
But I mean, Pods, Kuminga, Wiggins is not going to deliver them back to a single-digit seed in the West. It's just not right now.
No.
In 3 years, sure, but he's going to be on TV by then, so it's not going to matter.
On TV is it's a cool way to put it.
I mean, if not before, because of whatever garbage, and whatever I said about John Morant, just picture me saying worse things about Draymond Green because he's that much worse of a.
I won't do it, but insert clip from every podcast effort that we've done about him. Just put it right.
Trash him every time I'm on here, because he's literally shortening Steph Curry's career actively every day, even the preseason, because he knocks his teammates out and gets them sent to, Washington. But he is actively destroying the Sunset Tour of the Warriors because they are now bad, and they're stuck at bad because they can't tear it down while they give Steph, like you mentioned, $53 million or whatever it is.
And he's making, $25 million doing that too?
He deserves double that for putting up with Draymond, but that's
no. I'm talking about Draymond's making what is it? It was 4 for 120, wasn't it? It
was a lot of money.
It was a lot. It was way too much. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's his payment for all this. Is like, okay, cool, thanks, and thanks for the championships and your first ballot Hall of Famer. And by the way, you might be the reason we never compete again with Steph.
Right, and you literally may have taken a ring off his mantle.
Some of them are some of it's self-inflicted by Golden State. Ever since Bob Myers left,
of course, he left because he saw the same cap sheet we did, and was like, "Screw this."
Was on the wall.
Yeah, and he wrote it there in Sharpie, so it's his fault. But I mean, in his slight defense, he was a little handcuffed. Was paying Draymond Green idiotic? Sure. But Steph clearly at that time wanted him there, or at least acted like it. So that is why he is there. And I don't know what that means for the whole Clay thing, but Clay was it was time for Clay. It was sad to see Clay out there trying to recapture the Splash Brothers magic, and that that was they don't have the money to pay him because of Draymond Green. Like that. That's not the only reason, but it's
a huge
big reason.
It's a huge factor.
So again, as a Thunder fan, I love seeing the Warriors collapse from the inside. It's incredible. But also, as a fan of just basketball, to see Steph Curry go through this garbage, it is undeserved, and it's honestly disappointing to see. And guys like Trace Jackson Davis, he may be a guy you put on the floor for 30 minutes a night and don't blink twice, but not quick enough to save the victory lap tour of Steph and Golden State. I don't think he's going to play for another team. I know him and LeBron have flirted with teaming up before. They have the Olympics for that. I don't think that's going to be. reality. But this team is bad, and a decent part of it is contracts, and they're in that sense stuck because Draymond Green as a trade asset is laughable. There's just there's no reason to bring him in anywhere. And the last thing a team would want is if they have a roster full of young guys, and do you want that to be your mentor? I don't think that's an avenue a team would walk down either. So I think Steph Curry is going to stay in Golden State his whole career because he wants to. Draymond is stuck there because, frankly, probably no one else wants him. So two very different scenarios there. But I have them 13. They're not making the play-in. And it's a shame that Steph's going to spend the last however many years of his career playing a maximum of 82 games because this team, as currently constructed and for the foreseeable future, is not going to be able to put him in a position to elevate them to even a play-in like last year. So
it's just crazy to think that like they win a championship and then like the punch happens. And it's just like I got the timeline right? Like I was Googling all this while you were talking. Like that timeline is scary. Like they won a championship.
Poole got paid before him. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that. I mean, it's true, and it's crazy to think like the speculation of it is it's real. I mean,
it's going to be one of the biggest what ifs in the NBA in 10 years.
Yeah, we're so far into this that like the people who are watching this far into this are going to have a great laugh. I hope this could be the funniest thing I've ever shown you on a podcast. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna show you this for the YouTube audience. They're gonna enjoy this. We were talking about Draymond, and I was trying to pull up something while you were talking, and I just typed in Draymond Green in Google. That's it. Nothing else. I hit space. You know how Google works, right?
Sure.
I'm going to show you what the results are. Look at the purple result at the top. That's the first thing that popped up.
Well, of course it is. You have to look it up 5 times a year.
That was from when I wrote this past year's
The Good, Bad,
Ugly. Yep.
Yeah.
This is the first thing that popped up. For the audio listeners, I typed in Draymond Green and space on Google. And in a purple font, which means I've searched it in, I think it's 90 days or whatever, I think is the NBA's or the Google search history or whatever. Yeah, Draymond Green suspension is what popped up first. So I had a great laugh whenever you were recording or you were talking and I was trying to show you. And so anyway, let's get through the rest of the bottom feeders here at the West. I hate to say that, but it's true. The Clippers.
It's true.
Wow, what a disaster for a $2.5 billion stadium. That's going to be incredible. I genuinely
and empty, but
it's going to be an incredible place to watch a basketball game. I really do believe that. I think they've done some incredible things for the fan experience. The issue is the whole thing was putting the fans and the wall and all this other stuff and fans in your seats. The fans aren't going to go to the games, and so that's your first problem. And then once they're in their seats, obviously it's going to be like $1 billion to go to a game there. But you bet your sweet tail I'm going to be there as soon as I can to get out west because it's an incredible arena. I can't wait. The problem is I have to watch James Harden score 30 a night. Like that's just I don't even know why I'm asking you, but can he carry them to a play-in team?
Hell no.
Okay.
No.
Kawhi hasn't practiced. I should have led with that. That's the problem.
That's evergreen too. Type in Kawhi Leonard space. Kawhi Leonard hurt. That's probably
if they play together. I mean, granted, half their guys they brought in the free agents had literally, I think 50% of their free agent moves at some point served a suspension or served some kind of should have been in jail at some point, and so that's not good. But regardless of that, if those two play, I mean, it's two of the best players in the last 15 years. I mean, it just is.
Sure.
Different stages of the career, but that's all I have. They're bad. They're really bad. And like if it's Harden and the the misfit toys, like I don't know.
I mean, I've got the ESPN. This is projection depth chart up in front of me. The starting 5-day list is Harden, Terrence Mann, Derrick Jones Jr., Kawhi with a big red O next to his name, as he has had a lot of the last 5 years, and Zubac. Who is paying
like 50 games last year, didn't he? Or something like that? It was
Who is paying $200 to sit 500 feet from that? Like, it's just not going to happen.
Not in Los Angeles.
No.
It's the same San Diego, Los Angeles argument from
And
a few years ago.
if you catch one of the 6 games that Harden and Kawhi play together, then you should be given season tickets for free, because once Harden either flees town for the 7th time in his career, or Kawhi has some weird injury that he, 1, doesn't tell anybody about, which I don't have an issue with, but 2, has no desire to come back from. Like, I mean, if Kawhi Leonard retires mid-season, I'm not even remotely shocked. Like, that would just be the most fitting, like, just oddity type thing from him. If he was just like, I woke up, my knee hurt, we're 15 and 30, and I'm not doing this anymore. And then that's
Paul George can't
pre-deadline.
save
So
them. That's it. I mean, he just can't.
And
save
Harden's out the door as soon as he is bored with scoring the emptiest 40 since Cam Thomas did the night before. And I don't know, direction wise, it's getting to the point where you can't even throw money at it, because what free agent wants to come join this?
I don't have
forget it.
Like, yeah, there's no money to do.
Like,
I mean,
Ballmer has more money than God, but it takes an active God to get productive players there, because what they have assembled right now is terrible, and they may not make money on that arena for 25 years, because it's, like you said, $2 billion whatever dollars. There's nothing worth watching with. I mean, and Kevin Porter Jr. being on that team is a joke. I would rather have an empty roster spot than him at this point. So I mean, Bones Highland buried, PJ Tucker buried. I mean, these are at one time productive.
Tucker's not return until they restructure his contract. He's not returning. That was the last update we had on Tucker. I mean,
so they got guys that don't even want to complain. I mean, that's just
I can find it. I mean, it's bad.
I believe you.
I don't remember the exact wording. I probably reworded that wrong, but
this is so bad. Their win total, it would be is the biggest drop off. Actually, no, it's tied with Brooklyn. It's an under for me, because you have the 2 least bought in players in the NBA, and to expect anything close to flirting with the play-in from them, I think, is a mistake.
Yeah, we're wasting our time talking about these things. That's the best part about it. But I'm so glad I went and found. I'm so glad I went and found the tweet. This was Shams again. I messed his name the whole time. October 6th. The Clippers and forward PJ Tucker, I'm reading it verbatim, have mutually agreed for the 13-year NBA veteran to be away from the team as the sides work toward a resolution for his future. It's literally not even a contract. I'm glad I justified and clarified what I was trying to say. It's not even. It's he's not here anymore. So yeah, and neither do we. Yeah. Neither are we. So win total for Golden State, win total for the Clippers, and then unfortunately we're going to give Utah and Portland 45 seconds. So Golden State and Clippers, I'm going to go with under before you even say it. But go ahead.
I mean, same. Golden State 43.5, 0 chance. Forget it. No chance.
43.
I would take under 34.5, even if I had dyslexia and mistyped.
Can you move the win? Is that a thing? Like, can you alt the win total?
Probably.
Can I alt that down to like 38 and comfortably?
DraftKings did that for NFL, so I would look there for that.
Dude. That'd be sick. Okay.
And
write that one down.
The Clippers won 51 games last year. I'm going to pose this as a question as well. What is their win total for this season?
They always assume people are going to be fully healthy. It's so dumb, and that's how they get people.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you didn't say anything other than tells me I'm probably on the right track. It was 51 last year.
They won 51 games last year.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Their win total is probably 42 or something stupid like that.
It's 37.5.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you did say drop off a minute ago, and I missed that. Okay. Yeah. Wow, yeah, it's that's under. And
yes,
no one's going to call for Ballmer to fire the team or to sell the team. So that's good.
No.
I unfortunately love Utah. I really do. I love this team to death. I love their head coach. And I'll just list you 5 guys. This is 5 guys on this team that are not named. Actually, it's 6 that are not named Larry Markkinen. Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Taylor Hendricks, Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh, and Walker Kessler. I all love. And none of them are named Larry Markkinen. So my question is, did they, and maybe we don't have time again, but did the Jazz make the right decision by re-signing Lowry? Was it that simple? Yes, just sign him and figure it out.
I think so, because I don't think the assets in aggregate add up to a player of his caliber. I really don't. He's that good. He was the dream ad for Oklahoma City. They do this rope-a-dope thing where they play the first half of the season, beat 10 teams they shouldn't. They look at the draft board and look at their place in the standings, and they're like, okay, we're tanking this. And they just proceed to be unserious for the last 2 months of the year, which I don't love. But as long as the league is going to fail to stop it, I have no problem with it. So if Toronto goes down the same path, obviously you will get that one as far as where we slot in with these teams. But it's been 2 or 3 years now they've done it. They've looked – I mean, they were like the 1 seed in the West for 2 weeks recently, early season, playing well. A lot of young pieces.
They're going to do that again. They always do that. It's stupid.
Well, yeah, I think they'll do it again. I think if you could take a live win total at the deadline or at the All-Star break, take the under, because it's been 2 or 3 years now, and I don't hate the strategy. I hate that it's possible to do. But they have no range, no instruction. They go out, they overachieve slightly, and obviously they're not. If they were to emerge from the play-in, their ceiling is 1 game in a first-round series. It's just where they're at age-wise, talent-wise, etc. And that's going to change pretty quick as years go by, and this core hopefully stays together. But I have them 14. I'm sure you probably do too.
I do.
It's just because the team below them is not going to overachieve at any point. But I want them to stay the course for a full season so badly, especially with Laurie inked for as long a term as you can get in the NBA, 4 to 5 years. Because I want to see it. I love Cody Williams added to the mix of this team. Obviously, I watch a good bit of his brother in Oklahoma City, so I'm excited to see how he flourishes early, and hopefully, a similar, just massive leap forward in his first couple years in the league too. So this will probably be a league pass team for me. Just see Laurie with security and where he's going to live in 90 days is going to help him a lot. I
Literally,
think. So,
you heard me talk about that. You heard me talk about that on the pod.
He was in the trade machine for 3 years.
Well, so the security thing is legit. Maybe you don't know this then. I think I was on what show was I on? I can't remember now. I think it was maybe right when it happened. I probably wasn't doing pods at the time, and I was probably just doing guest spots for a while. But right when it happened, I don't know if people realize this. It happened right after the year deadline, where he can't be traded now because it's a certain amount of days from the trade deadline. So talking about security, he made that a point. He said that when they interviewed him after the fact, he literally cannot be on any other roster for a calendar year. He can't get traded until a year. I think it's July of next year. So that's why I posed the question, is because it's always this weird parallel with, okay, well, I don't want to get into this tonight, but it's the timeline thing. It's that guy, we have to get rid of that guy because he's not on our timeline. Mm-hmm. I've always thought it was the dumbest thing ever, because what if you overachieve? I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
But there's so many. Oklahoma City wasn't the only people making a phone call. I
bet. No,
imagine how do you think I feel about the Knicks if it was him instead of Cat
for San Antonio?
You kidding me? Oh yeah. I mean, literally. But okay, I'm glad that it's the right move, but there is, even though I don't think it's the right answer on, getting rid of a guy because of the timeline fit, he's going to expedite their timeline, which I don't know if is good for some of these guys. So maybe that's the issue.
He was a late bloomer, the Chicago afterthought.
That's for sure. Portland, do I need to start a 1-minute timer?
Cut it in half. They're bad. They have 3 centers. 1 should be on this team in 3 months. It's the rookie Klingon. But I've used the word dire for Brooklyn. It's dire.
I didn't think centers is where you would start that 30 seconds. So my problem was the logjam at guard. Simon, Sharp, and Henderson. They got to figure. I mean, it's such a weird trio that it almost could stunt. I'm not saying. I was going to pose the question, how much did last season worry you about Scoot's early development? But
I mean, a lot.
Yeah, a lot. But he's going to be fine. They'll figure it out. He's such a great player. The problem is he needs to have the ball in his hands. And those other 2 guys are going to have the ball in their hands instead. Oh, and sure. It's going to be a problem. And I'll just put this out there now. The Tumani Kamara breakout year is going to be awesome, even though they're going to be terrible. And I just say that because he's a guy that I followed for a long time at Dayton, loved him. Saw him at Portsmouth. That was one of the first guys I ever saw in scouting where I was like, I just put my flag down and I said, he's going to be good. And by the way, every NBA person there I talked to, he said he's going to be good. And so Phoenix gave him away as part of a, whatever throw in. And now he's in a place where he'll have the ball. And like, I hope he's incredible this year. I think he'll be a surprise to everybody. I don't think people expected us to talk about Tumani Kamara at the 139 mark, but that's just what we did. Really quick, Utah and Portland. What's the line? And then we'll get out of here.
Utah is 27.5.
That feels high.
That, yeah, they will be on pace for north of that, and they will likely finish south of that, which led me to the under.
Are they really worse than 31, though? They won 31 last year.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
They're going to be directed to be worse, is my fear. Similar to your premonition with Toronto.
It's 20. Yeah, all this stuff pointing back to Toronto makes me really worried. Thank God I don't have real money on this. So, at least on Toronto. So, what? Just 27? Is that for Utah?
It's 27.5, so 28 wins.
I'm going to go over at the 14 seed because I think that line's too low. I think Vegas doesn't care about some of the bottom teams sometimes. I think they underthink it a little bit.
Probably not a lot of action down there. So that's,
31 wins. If they regress, they only regress a small amount. So I would still be over there. So I'm going to go over. I think that's it's a weird play, but I think it works.
Right.
Portland under next.
It's they won 21 games last year. It is 20.5 this year.
And they're going to be worse. So yeah. I'm going to go under. I feel bad, but I'm going to go under.
I would rather be right than feel good. So yeah, just give me the under and next. Yeah.
All right. Let's not recap. I was going to say, let's recap. People could listen to the beginning when they recap. But yeah, Denver, OKC, we're very solidly comfortable there at the top. And then everybody else, we kind of, again, have the tiers that we have. A lot of fun. Thank you for all the extra time. I know we planned for however much we think this is going to take. Like, yeah, it'll be 2 hours. We'll figure this out. Here we are. It's just, look, NBA pods, you just got to get them out early, right before the season. People are going to indulge in them, and then we won't have this long of one probably for a while because awards really only take an hour 15. So, yeah, you'll be on before the awards, obviously, because we got a lot to talk about, and your team's probably going to be destroying everybody in front of them for the next 6 months. So, plug on the way out, because I don't think we did in the East, and we'll figure out how to do that. But plug on the way out, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so I have a podcast of my own. I don't get to talk hardly any NBA on there because my two co-hosts, love them to death, do not watch the NBA. So a lot of football, Clemson focus there. We're all three grads, did sports medicine there. So we're pretty in tune with the football side of things there, NFL as well. It's the 1009 podcast. It's at the 1009 on Twitter. Trevor is gracious enough to link all of my information, social media-wise, etc., when I come on here, so it'll be pretty easy to find. So thank you for that. And then since March Madness, which is one of the more in tune things Trevor focuses on basketball-wise, I've been an ambassador for a company called Bet Openly, and that is why you've had this sweatshirt in your face for the last 3 hours total. It's it's got to be good and important if it's not an Oklahoma City shirt for a preview. So just know that. That's how much I hold them in high esteem. So it's an online betting website with an app in the final stages of being pushed live to the standards of Gino, who you probably have seen tweets from and don't even realize it. But 1% juice peer-to-peer betting. So instead of minus 110, minus 115 on a college football Saturday or an NFL Sunday, you're getting plus 100, plus 104. I had the Chargers today minus 3.5, plus 119. The true line was minus 3. So a lot of value there. Like I said, been on it since March. Nothing bad to say about it. Very active as far as if you have any issues, which I don't really expect. I've had none. But any questions, any issues, they are very much on top of getting to you and getting your issues addressed. Any questions you have, honestly, DM me. My personal is under my name. DM the podcast. I'll help you out. Or if not, I know who to send you to. So a lot of great stuff. Missed football season last year, obviously. I've only been doing this for about 7 months. So in the early stages of football season, I'm loving it. It's great. There's about 35,000 active users. So if you can't find a bet you like, you can create one for yourself. Direct betting. So, if we had done this when my Tigers played Trevor's Wolfpack, I could have sent him a link. He could have taken NC State. I could have taken Clemson. He's probably a little smarter than that, but we could have bet heads up.
Yeah.
And that way we're betting against each other and not the books. So really cool project. Excited to be a part of it, and looking forward to many more seasons and months as a part of that company.
I love it. I know we've talked about it offline many times, and it's cool to hear the perspective of kind of where things have grown even since March Madness. And anytime an app or a website can decide March Madness is the time that they want to launch and kind of really be moving. And I know you guys, obviously they were a thing and you guys got partnered there, but look, hey, they can survive the craziness of March Madness and all the activity that comes with that, then I think they're going to be okay. So yeah, that's really cool stuff. And all of that stuff for you guys will be in the description. 1009, I'll link the Bet Openly link as well, at Grayson_Hill as well. You'll see him many times as you have for the last couple of years. So we're talking NBA. Hey, Clemson Tigers basketball, never know. Can be some fun stuff. I'm going to try to find a way to get down there for a game. I don't know how it's going to work. We're going to figure it out. Just solidified the rankings for the magazine for them, and I'm very, very excited. I think I'm a little it took a month, but I think I'm ready. I think I'm in. I think they're going to be really good again. So no tall white guy this time. Actually, I take that back. They do have one.
We got one. Come on, Shefflin. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
we got one.
Fair. So, all right. Well, that's why they're good again. All right. People are going to be like turning off by now. So without further ado, on behalf of Grayson, this has been the Two Pointers Podcast. I'm Trevor Everett, and basketball is back, baby.